there is comedy involved in the existential crisis of the world ending. Like that is funny. I will die on that hill.
Hi, this is Zena Harris.
And I'm Mark Rabin.
Welcome to the tie-in.
Hello from San Francisco. This is happening.
Late on a Tuesday night. Yes, that's
Yeah.
how we're rolling this week.
Yeah, exactly. I'm at a friend's place. I've got a view of the city here in this echoey room. It's absolutely stunning. And I've been here riding the wave post Burning Man.
Uh-huh.
And it's been awesome. Just networking and meeting up with friends and working remotely and just kind of like feeling into the next phase
Yeah.
of my life and career. I don't know if we've talked about it here, but I'm in the process of relocating to the US
From Canada.
for from Vancouver
Yeah.
for work, for career, fun, life. It is just like scary and exciting and sometimes people don't understand, right? Because people like Canadians are like, "What? You're moving to America?" And I'm like, "Yeah, this is happening."
Yeah.
Um, and so it's kind of crazy. Midlife transition.
Hey, when it's time to, make a change, then you just got to go for it, right? And
Yeah,
that's what like a midlife crisis is. No, I'm just joking.
that's a middle passage
Middle passage, better word. Most
by
people get,
James Hollis. Middle passage,
cars, but you're making a
no
cross.
crisis. Like this is the catch. I've done all the things, so it's actually like moving into the next phase,
Yeah.
of life.
Hmm.
And also, like, I love Canada, but it's just not hitting at this point. It's a comfortable, middle of the road place, and I love my Canadian friends, brothers and sisters, family. Um, but it's kind of just wallowing in mediocrity.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear
You've
you.
lived there.
I know. I know. I
You're
mean,
Canadian,
yeah, I know. But there
kinda.
is there is something for like this unrivaled, like, like ambition that, a lot of people in the US have. You can feel it in certain pockets of the US, and it is just like exciting, go for it, take risks, let's see what happens, and
Yeah.
probably in the Bay Area where you are, like you probably feel it in the air. I mean,
Oh, it's everywhere. I mean, especially if you're in AI.
oh
But
yeah.
at the same time, like I feel it in LA, I feel it in other major cities, right? It's like all
Mhm.
the major cities in the US they're kind of exciting. Lots of young people doing wild things. There's money, there's opportunity. Who knows what's going to happen down here? But still, you know,
Yeah. You're taking a chance.
I'm willing to take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting. It's so exciting.
Yeah, totally. Thank you.
Yeah.
And what about you? What kind of changes are you taking on right now this fall?
Oh, what changes? Well, I'm taking on, it's not really changes. It's just like I have a ninth grader and I am like, watching him, go through the whole like change thing. So on the personal side, that's the kind of stuff I'm working through. At work at Green Spark Group, I mean, gosh, like, I mean, look, we deal with a lot of people. I talk to a lot of people. I am really trying to observe like just keep my finger on the pulse of things and
Yeah.
figure out like how people are talking about things. And some people are, trying to do good things and are just, maybe I don't know, maybe feeling a little insecure. Maybe things, there are anyway, things aren't hitting in certain ways. I I talk to them about like I deal with that, right?
Yeah.
And and also thinking about like, and this has happened to me for years. Maybe I've told you this before, I don't know, but like people from all over the world will, like talk to me about what's going on, in their neck of the woods on
Yeah.
production. And it's kind of
Yeah.
like production, like therapy for for like sustainability reps around the world. Well, I just this week had a conversation with someone about like just the frustration that like it's not supposed to be working this way. People are lying about their qualifications to do the
Hmm.
work. And then
Yep.
they get hired and get a raise. Like, what are we doing here? So, like, also, like, there's that kind of going on in the
But it's
industry
a gray zone though, right? Because
in various ways.
there's no real qualifications. I mean, is there
No,
like, I mean,
no.
there's a spec and stuff, but it's like, it's kind of like, I mean, is it, they just need a warm body to fill it, or is somebody just like they're giving somebody a shot, or is there actual like a certification body that people need to go through? Like, what does it
So,
take?
so right now, I mean, I feel like, and I've used this before, so it's the Wild West of
Yeah.
sustainability professionals in this industry. I mean, some people have a ton of training, lots have taken lots of
Yeah.
courses and have a lot of experience and know what they're doing. Some people have master's degrees and
Yeah.
really apply this broader, like, approach to sustainability. Some people are super good with data and apply that to the job. Some people think it's cool and want to do it, and they also have the same job title as,
Right.
people who have lots of experience. So there isn't a standard. Nobody's really checking references and qualifications. Sometimes it is, a warm body just, to
Mhm.
monitor waste or whatever. That is not, how you shift an industry. That's mediocrity, honestly.
Right. Yeah.
That's checking a box. That's not boundary pushing. And that's what I, honestly push back against a lot. And I try to, you know, create programs to help the industry, right? Like,
Yeah.
okay, we need
Yeah.
standards in education. Great. Like, I'll start working on curriculum. I'll partner with people who do it and we'll create something and, for the industry, right? Like these kinds of things. Like,
Yeah.
how
The
do we
basics.
make
And,
it
and then you learn
better?
on the job, but then you learn on the job, like it's like anything. It's like when I was a well site geologist 20 plus years ago. I mean, I did a geology degree that gave me the basics, but I didn't know anything about well site geology until I went out into into the woods and did the job. So it's
Yes.
kind of like, is there a base qualifications, but then you learn on the job, or is there an apprenticeship or mentorship?
Well, that's the thing I think is really missing is the mentorship. I mean, this is
Mm.
something that we know needs to happen. I mean, we've tried to do it on a couple of our projects. Like we really, because we're a team approach, right? Like if somebody needs help, like we've got team members to help. And that's how we kind of handle that
Mhm.
mentorship piece. But there are people out there who get thrown into these sustainability jobs that are learning on the job. They're doing the best they can. They're trying to keep up.
Yeah.
They're the only person in this role on a big production, and they, are just trying to do the best they can.
Yeah.
They don't have a mentor. They don't have, like
Yeah.
a team
Organizational
support.
support. Yeah.
Right. And so they struggle. They struggle. And maybe they've done it, multiple times and they struggle each time and they're not getting to that next level or just having that support system behind them. And that's just I find it
Yeah.
unfortunate. Anyway, that was a big rant.
Yeah. Big rant. Totally, totally ranty. All in a good way.
Oh
Because we
my
care.
gosh.
At the end of the day, we fucking care about this and making those changes. And it takes a lot of energy to change an industry. And we've said it before, there's one industry that is ripe to lead in every single other industry globally, it is entertainment. And that's why we're doing this.
Yeah, totally, totally. And so with this coming episode, we've got Jack Cooper Stimpson, which, fun because he's from the UK. He brings his UK perspective to the conversation and he's worked with several folks in the US. So he's, got that kind of connection to share and just a real joy to talk to, honestly. And we hope you like it. We hope you dive in, listen. You know what? Give us some comments. If you think the rant we just went on was ridiculous, let us know
Yeah.
because we won't do that anymore. But really love to hear your feedback and do like and subscribe or share with a friend, tell a friend, whatever. We really appreciate
Yeah.
it.
And if you're in San Francisco or LA, give me a shout and let's meet up.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the tie-in. Today, we're talking with Jack Cooper Stimpson, who is an award-winning writer, director, and environmental campaigner from South London. Jack trained at the Brit School and the National Youth Theatre of Great Britain and has since written and directed a feature-length film, short films, and several pieces for TV. Jack wrote and directed and produced Alex's Dream. He wrote and directed the political satire Extinction, which turned into a six-part series for BBC Studios, and directed his first feature-length project, Goodbye, Hello, in Los Angeles for No Good Films. He directed Spirit of Place, which won numerous awards and qualified for the BAFTAs and BIFAs. Am I saying that correctly? Okay, and Academy Awards. And he wrote and directed More Flames for Adam McKay's Yellow Dot Studios. Alongside ongoing TV commitments, Jack is developing several feature-length scripts with various producers and companies. Wow, that's
Yeah.
incredible. Welcome to the tie-in.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'll go home now. I'll leave.
Yeah,
We've
perfect.
covered it.
What I
Okay.
needed.
Yeah. Jack, happy to have you on. Tell us a little bit about how you got started in this exciting and wild, crazy industry. Like what drove you to pursue filmmaking and directing and producing?
Sure. I mean, in a nutshell, through acting, that was my kind of route into writing and directing. Yeah. So I'm a recovering actor is the way I like to phrase it. Yeah, I was one of those kids from the word go. I was like, yeah, I want to be an actor. I want to write. I want to be involved in filmmaking, even though I had no idea what that meant really. And yeah, trained at the Brit School with the National Youth Theatre, and I was acting for like 3 or 4 years, and it was great. I was working, I did some films and TV, and then had the opportunity to produce short films for another young actor who wanted to make films, and I did that for a couple of years, and then finally, in like 2018, I sort of plucked up the courage to be like, I think I want to, do this myself. I want to write and direct, and that was Alex's dream, and yeah, kind of no looking back. This door opened and I kind of ran through and was like, yeah, this is great. And yeah, although acting was, like never say never. I might return to it one day, but I think for the foreseeable, having a great time writing and directing. But yeah, so through acting really.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So, I read, you know, in your bio, you are engaged in you're an environmental campaigner. Can you unpack that for us? What does that look like for you? Is it work that you've done or, just a personal passion? Like, can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's a good question. I mean, I don't really know what it means, to be honest. Like, I think campaign work is obviously a little bit kind of what does that encompass? It kind of encompasses everything and nothing at the same time. But I used to have environmental activist. It was a little bit punchier, and then I sort of realized that wasn't really what I was doing. I think because my work for the last 3 or 4 years, my filmmaking and TV work has been almost entirely focused on environmental storytelling and trying to convey the story and the message of the climate crisis and trying to communicate that in some way, shape, or form. That sort of felt like more of a campaign sort of direction. And then the last sort of big film I worked on, Spirit of Place, which was made in collaboration with the Wildfowl and Wetlands Trust, which was very much a kind of campaign film. That really felt like I'd stepped into a different territory and, and discovered a way of combining both things, talking in a very sort of overt way about the issues that I care about and want to be, addressing as much as possible, but also combining it with my work as a writer and director. But I'm still figuring it out, in all honesty. I'm not really sure what an environmental campaigner is, but I just feel like that's where I want to go. So I'm saying it out loud.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm doing it right, is the short answer.
I don't know if any of us know if we're doing it
Yeah.
right. I mean, we're
Sure.
just doing the best we can, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like quicksand everywhere. So we're just trying to get to some sort of like stable ground.
Yeah.
And we're talking about fiction. Fiction. You're writing fiction, or not? Not these aren't documentary series you're talking about. So you're embedding the key messages into long form fiction movies.
Yeah, precisely. So it's all scripted.
Scripted, yeah.
Yeah, I love documentaries. I think there's such a, there's clearly a place for that kind of storytelling in our culture. But I know that my work is best when it's scripted and when it's largely funny. I write comedy, and I love that the challenge of trying to make jokes about the end of the world and trying to,
Hmm.
find humor in the darkest of places. So yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm interested in documentary in the kind of long run. I'd love to explore that space at some point, but it's yeah, I feel like there's an urgency right now that I'm trying to kind of get into my work, and I don't think you can do that with documentary so much. Documentary
Hmm.
feels like such a long process, and there are great people doing that stuff already in the
Yeah.
climate space. So I think yeah, they don't need me.
Yeah.
Well, we don't get to talk to a lot of writers. We've talked to a few, and I'm always curious about the sort of creation process of a story and what different how different people like go through that process. Can you share a little bit about how you approach, creating a script, for example, and like even how you're thinking about putting certain themes in or couching the script in a certain way or whatever that looks like. Can you just take us through your process a little bit?
Yeah, I'll try to because
Okay.
it's obviously it's a bit of a mystery. It's a bit of a kind of dark art. It's like it's odd. I don't really know how scripts do come on or ideas even kind of come to fruition. It's such a strange kind of process, and it is different every time. I don't think
Yeah.
there's a kind of rule of thumb, obviously, but I mean, it all starts with an idea, an image maybe. I think I'm very may surprise you as a filmmaker, but I'm very visual. So, when I'm writing, everything's going to be from like a certain kind of like, oh, well, I've got this idea of a man up a tree, or I've got an idea of, this building and this character running out of it, whatever, like something will kind of just click. And then you kind of work backwards from that and you think, okay, what's the story? And building it out from this kind of central thing. And or sometimes it's a song. I mean, I listen to a ton of music when I'm writing, and quite often that just bleeds into it, and it's about a mood or a tone that sort of yeah passes through you at a certain time, and it takes ages. That's the curse of writing is and I'm learning this the hard way. Is the more I write and the more I kind of spread my wings, but it's just not something you can rush. The thing the things that I've written that are most effective have taken a long time and have taken years sometimes to gesticulate and grow.
Hmm.
I'm pretty collaborative. I love working with producers and other actors and people to try and bring new voices into the script, and yeah, just keep picking. Like it's a real. I think that's probably something that I know is unique about myself, or I'm sure other writers are the same, but I definitely know that I sort of constantly pick at things, really kind of just keep pulling at the string. And it's not always big sort of redrafts or anything. Sometimes it's just very small tweaks along the way. Just sort of 5%, 10% wins as you go, and you're just building, building, building.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's an odd process. It's very lonely as well, writing. It's very like sat at a laptop, on your own, just hallucinating and coming up with ideas. It's quite a strange way to earn a living, but
Yeah.
yeah.
But then you get to take that and, show it to the masses if you're lucky and you get all the things align on in the process, and then you get to show it to the world, which is just amazing.
It
So,
is. I mean, it's obviously such a vehicle for conveying a message. And when we talk about sustainability, when we talk about those bigger issues in our world and those things that we need to address, it's like, well, this is clearly one of the best ways to do it. I wouldn't say the best because I don't think there should be a hyperbole attached to it. I don't think anything is the best. It changes, but clearly film is this amazing conduit for talking about things. And yeah, what a privilege, what an amazing responsibility to have to know that people are going to watch this thing that you've come up with and yeah, take it seriously, hopefully.
Yeah.
How do you avoid, especially with climate change and all? I mean, this is going in just straight into doom and gloom storytelling versus keeping it interesting, quirky. You said you like to bring in comedy and other angles because these are heavy topic matters.
Yeah, it's really hard. I was having this conversation earlier today with a producer actually, and we were talking about, how frankly a lot of the climate storytelling that we have seen on our screens for the last 10, 20 years or, whatever, the last little while, it's largely disaster films. It's usually the end of the world, and that's, that's important. That's not it's not irrelevant because clearly there is a disaster aspect to this story and people are suffering and there is clearly a real world disaster aspect to this. But I think I've just always known that that's not the way to people's hearts all of the time. It's very easy to tune out of that stuff,
Hmm.
and perhaps because that documentary space also sometimes tends to kind of go into that as well of like this is how bad it is.
Hmm.
I've really felt like, well, that's covered. There's no need to kind of retread old ground. And I suppose also on a very like practical basis, like these larger issues are inherently funny. Like there is comedy involved in the existential crisis of the world ending. Like
Yeah.
that is funny. I will die on that hill. It's like
Yeah.
we are small people in a very big world, and these issues are ginormous. And that presents a wealth of opportunity for comedy and lots of relief frankly amongst the drama of it all. And I
There's
think
probably love stories in there, and I mean, and the fact that we're in a simulation, right? I mean, the aliens looking
exactly, yeah.
down.
A big experiment.
Yeah, yeah. But no, well, exactly. It's no, it's really not to say it's easy because it's hard work, and I don't want to be glib about the climate crisis either. I'm not here sort of laughing about it. I'm only trying to find the human aspect of like how do we engage with this? Because, whilst lots of the activists and campaigners and people that I know who are very involved on the front lines of the climate crisis and are really challenging this on a very sort of day-to-day basis, whilst I know they're all up to their eyeballs in dread
Yeah.
and stress, they are also
Yeah.
laughing. They're like laughing about the fact that, you know, this protest went wrong or they misspelt this thing or, whatever. Like there's always things to for us to find the human emotion in, I suppose,
Hmm.
as we go along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, you develop content and, have taken it through to production and beyond, right? So you really have a view of the whole content creation process. Um, I'm curious, like, I mean, clearly your writing is including, climate storytelling elements and these sorts of things in your writing, but then, when that transitions into planning for production, the physical production of making it, how does that sort of environmental lens kind of, you know, flow through for you? How are you talking to folks in and around kind of that next phase of the project?
Yeah, it's obviously something I have to think about very carefully because there's no point in me writing this content and then not practicing what I preach as much as
Yeah.
possible. And I think it's obviously up front, it's important to acknowledge the fact that the film and TV industry is an industry. Like you are going to have a carbon footprint. You're going to find it very difficult to, have that leave no trace, carbon neutral. It's impossible. We can't do that right now. And that's a systemic issue. That's not an individual issue. As much as
Yeah.
one person or filmmaker, whatever, might want to change that, it's very hard to do that. But there are enormous steps you can make, and it's just thinking about it as early as possible. And I suppose the luxury that I have as a writer director is that that inherently involves a sense of production as well. I'm quite often producing within those roles, so I get to basically inflict my, my opinions and beliefs on how the production should be run
Yeah.
on the project. And the producers I've worked with have, I should say, always been very up for this as well, and the actors have always been very up for it. But you have to be thinking about it very early on. Would be,
Hmm.
my advice, I suppose, is that there's no point thinking about this at the 11th hour the night before shooting, and you're going, oh wait, we've got a petrol generator, and we've got
Yeah.
11 cars coming in through cars and various things. It's like, oh wait, what are we going to do? It's like you have to be thinking about this at a contract stage or earlier, and you have to be giving people fair warning because it's not how the industry is set up to operate, right? We're trying to kind of retrofit stuff and
Flip it, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that can feel clumsy and a bit scary for people. Basically, like people are quite sort of worried because it's hard to make films. It's a miracle anything gets made. So once you start saying, and we're going to do it differently, people kind of go like, what do you want to do? Like, but
Yeah.
it's always been such a joy as well. And I think, that need to be doing things in a more sustainable way actually breeds a lot of imaginative, creative thinking and a lot of innovation, basically. So it's never been a problem. It's just, yeah, takes a nice, calm conversation at the beginning of production.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do, I was
Go
going to say,
ahead.
do you find like you're in the UK? Do you find that working with crews and people are more open, or how does it compare to working in LA, in the United States, or any comparison there? Because we know that the UK has been sort of a canary in the coal mine for many different eras of climate change and changing of like you guys were the first to cut down all your trees and pollute all the rivers and clean up things and so on. And we know that there's an industry there supported by BAFTA and other groups like Green Voltage, for example. I mean, they were early to the game. How does that compare to working in the different filming regions?
Yeah, very different culture of filmmaking. My experience in LA was just post COVID, so it was, slightly warped by that
Yeah.
experience. So
Yeah.
I don't think I can speak to the filmmaking experience in LA at large. Obviously, it's like one film post COVID, so we still had like masks on. It was kind of, the idea of then putting a very high sustainability criteria on top of that, I think for a very small independent film would have been crippling. Like you just
Yeah.
can't do COVID protocol and sustainability. Like, it's not to make excuses, but I just think that would have
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
very, very difficult. And also just the physical and, metaphorical landscape of LA, like it's more carbon intensive would be, my experience. There's literally more travel, there's more driving,
Hmm.
it's more expansive. It's just a bigger kind of operation and more unionized, which I think is a very good thing. I was really, it was fascinating to watch that process. I mean, it can be, I mean, it's very different. Let's just leave it at that. It's
Yeah.
very different to our
Yeah.
experience in the UK. Like we have a few unions here, but like it's not really a thing. Like it's just not so
Hmm.
embedded in the day to day. So that was very interesting. I think in
Hmm.
terms of sustainability, I think the UK, from what I've heard and experienced, yeah, I think we're a little bit further, as you say, we're kind of we are very much in the coal mine and we're finding our way in the dark.
Yeah.
Um, but it's going well. I think it's like we are making progress for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of the things that I was excited to see is, you were one of the first, or, to use a green writer in your process. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how it came to be, why it was so important to do that?
Yeah, happily. I could talk about the Green Ride all day. I think it's the most amazing thing. I think it's that sort of one of the beacons of light in the film and TV industry right now. It's like, on those very dark days when you're like, oh God, why do we bother? It's like, oh no, the Green Rider exists. Like
Yeah.
change is possible. It gets me out of bed in the morning sometimes. It's really fantastic. So, I mean, in a nutshell, it's a very amenable and realistic bit of paperwork that can be added to an actor's contract. It's actually not a contract. It's basically a handshake agreement, I suppose, is the way to phrase it. So it's not a legal document, but it encourages talent to basically not be quite as carbon intensive and not expect and ask production for things like private travel, carbon intensive food, uh, energy, food waste, all the basics, the really fundamental things, the day to day, the boring stuff that your agent kind of would sort out for you, just to not push for those things that sometimes agents do push for, like private travel. It's the perfect example, which can feel like a very hierarchical, like, this is a good thing, basically. And it just curtails that. It just takes the pressure off that being such a thing.
Hmm.
I mean, the document covers a lot of ground. I won't kind of recite it for you right now, but
Sure.
it's really brilliant. It's just really, as I say, like really realistic. It doesn't ask anything of talent that, compromises on the production or the creative elements of the story. But it just yeah, takes that edge off, and I think gets production thinking about their carbon footprint at large in a really kind of tangible way. Because we know that talent have an outsourced, weight on production, frankly. Like they have influence in a way that no other department has. It's a very public facing aspect of the industry as well. So yeah, it's a cultural shift as well. It's just like stepping away from those things that we've been become kind of quite addicted to, basically,
Hmm.
in the industry.
Hmm.
Yeah, it just used to. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
like that's the thing. I mean, you're changing social and technical behaviors right around everything, and that's not easy, especially when you're hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line every minute, especially for the huge blockbuster
Yeah.
movies. I mean, you're just changing this. It's huge. It's
Exactly.
changing though.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
is.
yeah, and people want to take it up. The
Hmm.
names of the people that have adopted the Green Rider. I don't know how much of it's being used on a day-to-day basis, but it's been successful. It really has changed the industry, and it's becoming a norm. I will mention. I think we're allowed to mention that we're working on a writer and director's equivalent as well. So hopefully, this can become a kind of it can become more widespread across a production and not just for actors.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because, I've heard it in the vein of, talent and, that sort of thing. But, there are others that do have contracts and want certain things. And, and that's great that, you're working on that and expanding it to kind of cover other positions who would typically like writers and directors and that sort of thing. So,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the dream is to have every department has its own Green Rider. Costume have it, hair and makeup. Even the Sparks, the gaffers, whatever. All these different roles have their version of it, and it can be boutique. It can be bespoke to each department. It doesn't have to be a universal thing. It's not a one size fits all. Obviously, it's not going to work like that. But the dream is to have a production that every department in some capacity is adopting this and thinking about sustainability in
mhm.
a really meaningful capacity, and not relying on someone else to solve it for them. It's not like, oh well, the producer's doing a no meat Monday or whatever, which is fantastic, but just like isn't going to cut it. It's just not going to
Yeah.
move the needle really.
Yeah. So what's been the ripple effect since you've started using it? Have you just have you done it on multiple shows? Have crew like really embraced? Like what's the vibe? What's the ripple effect from using it?
Yeah, I've used it on two films so far. So yeah, my film Spirit of Place was the first film I think to use an actor's Green Rider officially. I think I think I'm okay to take that kind of title.
Go for it.
I'll take it. Yeah, no. Someone else will probably send me an email and be like, but yeah, we had the wonderful actor Mark Rylance in that film, and Mark had been already been championing the Green Rider and is obviously a huge environmentalist in his own right. And Mark was immediately like, yep, that makes total sense. I will use the Green Rider, which made it obviously then easier when talking to the other cast and crew and saying, we're going to be using a Green Rider. Mark is already using it. Do you mind using it? It becomes
Yeah.
much, you've got a nice bit of leverage there, basically. And then, yeah, you used it last year again on More Flames, the film I made with Adam McKay and Stacey Robert Steele, and Yellow Dot Studios, their kind of climate
Hmm.
content outlet. And I mean, basically, the ripple effect has been very positive. That talent are keen to use it. I think on a cynical basis, it's a optics for it are quite positive. It makes them look quite good,
Yeah.
which is no bad thing. It's that's I don't resent that at all. But then obviously on a practical basis, it really galvanizes production. I think it makes everyone feel like they're doing their bit, so to speak. I've never had any like negative feedback from it that I've been aware of. I know when speaking to agents, there was a conversation of like, what is this? Like, why do we have to sign this thing? And obviously, anything involving any kind of paperwork is always a bit like, what's this? What do we have to do now? But
Yeah.
people are really interested in it basically, and it's now become part of the lexicon. It's become part of the daily conversation around production, and yeah, it's really changed the landscape. I think, Fainty, Will, and Danusha, the three people behind the Green Rider. Yeah, they've genuinely kind of changed the industry, and yeah, for the better.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to see it more and more, right? At the talent level, right? There's going to be right from the beginning, there's probably going to be written into the contracts.
I
Yeah.
think so. I
I
think
think
this will
that's where
become
we're
the
going.
norm. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I feel like we're going to start hearing people talk about it publicly. Like, I mean, okay, it's public. I'm not saying that it's not, but I just, increase the comfort level of talking about, you know, in the, press junket after, or, that sort of thing, just kind of like, yeah, and the, like it just kind of normalizes, the actions and approach to the production. And I think we'll hear more about it, more stories about, this cool thing that happened on production and, so and so had a green writer and whatever. I just think it's going to, become more popular in that more public facing side of it too.
Yeah, exactly. I think it needs to have that burst where it becomes really well known and everyone knows exactly what it is. And then it
Mhm.
almost needs to disappear, I feel. It needs to sort of become so
Yeah,
normalized that people stop thinking about it and stop talking about it. It's sort of,
exactly.
it's like the more you talk about it, in fact, the more difficult it sounds, and you sort of overcomplicate it by talking about it. It's like a weird, and that's not to disagree with you, because I think right now we do need to support it and we do need to sort of keep talking about it. But there needs to be that point where actually it just sort of, you don't have to talk about it, and it just becomes embedded in,
Yeah.
yeah, the everyday, and
And
stops
we
becoming,
work ourselves out of a job.
Well,
yeah,
that's the
yeah,
goal,
exactly,
right? Like,
yeah, yeah,
We've been saying this for 10 years, though. If we're still talking about this in 10 years,
ah,
we didn't hit it
didn't
out of
do
the
a good
park.
enough
And
job. Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's why I'm like, let's talk, 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 as you say, like there's the burst. And now we're all good with it. We're all comfortable with, this shift. And then we can just go on about our business and we will have kind of shifted it around and kind of made, you know, a, the sort of idea of producing with a lighter footprint kind of the default. And then, if you do have to add in a more carbon intensive, equipment or whatever, fine. But regularly, your default state would be, that lighter footprint state. So one of these days we're going to get to that shift. I'm excited.
Yeah, it will happen. It will happen.
I
And
think so.
I think the other major challenge for something like the Green Rider or just sustainability at large is to move it away from it feeling like it always has to be associated with a green story. So if your film is
Mhm.
about climate change, oh well, of course, then you have to be doing this stuff. But actually, it'd be great just to have like a Marvel film, like using the Green Rider, and it doesn't have to be
Hmm.
climate content on screen as well. I think that's part of the challenge that I sometimes feel is that people will sort of feel like they only have to use the Green Rider if the content matches up with it, if you see what I mean, sort of
Yeah.
on and off screen. And I think that's a weird sort of psychological thing that sort of is sticking a little bit at the moment. Um,
Yeah. That's interesting. One of the things I'm curious about is the concept of labeling. Once you label something, you anchor your thoughts to you know, that label. And, this is across the board, lots of things. And I feel like kind of what you just described, like when we talk about climate storytelling, we are labeling storytelling in a particular way. And what does that then mean psychologically? And, or if we're just, if it's just storytelling and there is no particular label, what then does that mean? Does it give people an out to not do certain things? Or, so I'm paying attention to that and just watching how people react and how they tend to anchor then on a
Well,
particular label. I'm curious if
I
you've noticed
think
that.
I think it also pulls people into a political orientation, right? In a
Oh,
weird
there's
way
that. Yeah.
as well. I don't know. I don't know if that's yeah, Jack. I don't know what your thoughts are on what Zena commented on, but that's what it feels like to me. It just pulls people in to us to a side.
Yeah, I mean it's frustrating, isn't it? Because the climate crisis is totally non-binary
Yeah.
politically. It's like it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, Republican, a left wing, right wing. It doesn't matter. Like it's coming for all of us. Like, so yeah, I think it's frustrating if the storytelling then also sort of feels like it's explicitly left wing or right wing to be talking about this. Yeah, it is difficult. I mean, I happen to be on the left and have no intentions of moving, but we are making stories for everyone. It has to be.
Yeah.
Uh, you have to take that kind of universal approach to it, I suppose.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And just we just to change it a little bit, we were shared your work was shared with us through the film festival doctor. Can you describe this and your kind of interaction with this film festival doctor? Like, what is this?
yeah. So Rebecca was a film festival consultant. I don't know what her official title is. I think
Yeah, I don't know
film
either, so
festival
I'm
consultant. Let's
wondering.
go with that. Basically, yeah, Rebecca worked with me and my producers and the whole team on Spirit of Place, the film that I mentioned. We qualified for we had a festival run with the film that ended the I don't know beginning of this year, I suppose. Oh God, it feels like a lifetime that that circuit goes on and on and on. But we qualified for most of the major awards, the BAFTAs, the BIFTAs, and the Academy Awards. And Rebecca was helping us basically with those relationships with the festival. So she even knows the festival directors or is aware of what they're looking for thematically or stylistically, whatever. And she will kind of push and tailor and just give you a bit of advice, basically. And yeah, the film had a really successful festival run. We did qualify for those major awards, which was incredibly exciting, and it was nice to have that experience of having a film go through that process. And yeah, Rebecca was fantastic. Yeah, I mean, we've been to like 20 plus festivals, I think, and won a few
Wow.
awards. And yeah, we wouldn't have done that on our own. So
Yeah.
yeah, she did a great job.
Total connector. I know.
Yeah, yeah. I think
Yeah.
her life is constantly networking, I imagine. And I don't envy her the task because it must be
It's
very exhausting, but clearly it's paying off. And yeah, I'd
yeah.
recommend anyone else to work with her. I think she's fantastic.
Oh, great. Great, great, great. Yeah, it is important, we forget how important networking is, but it's kind of like, the connectivity, the community, getting into certain groups and, the ability just to, share work in different, community contexts, I think is just so important. So,
Mm. Yeah, well, I mean, I have, I say this a lot, and I th there's no point in making these films and having this messaging if no one watches it. Like the audience
right.
is key. Like films have to be watched to matter and to exist. Obviously, like they sit on a hard drive and no one watches them. So yeah, that's my job as a filmmaker is to make sure that the film is commercially viable and where people do want to watch it and making sure it's not so esoteric and whatever like niche that people
Mhm.
just don't relate to it and can't get into it whilst also sticking to my ideals as a filmmaker and making sure it's artistically fulfilling, but then yeah, working with people like Rebecca to make sure it can find an audience. And I think the wonderful thing, the good news is that there is an audience. People do want to watch these kinds of films and want to be challenged to a degree. Like they want to be confronted with it a little bit, and they want to talk about it. And my experience of doing the festival run was the Q&As were fantastic. People had such genuine questions and wanted to know more and wanted to get involved. Which is wonderful. There is a community there. So
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, it's
Mhm.
good.
Yeah. Adam, what's next? What are you working on next? What's exciting you here in the near to mid future?
Yeah, well, I'm kind of I'm right in the middle of it. I'm right in a kind of in the middle of setting up my second feature film, which is and I'm calling it an eco rom-com. It's a rom-com set in
Ooh.
London. It's about an activist and a city boy that fall in love, and I won't say much
Oh,
more
I
than
love it.
that. But it's 90 minutes of talking about how do we communicate the climate crisis. That's basically the gist of the film, but through that sort of rom-com genre.
It's
And
very real.
yeah,
Totally. I mean,
yeah,
I've got
yeah.
a teenager right now, kind of like,
I
Fit
really,
that description.
interesting, interesting. Yeah, I mean, I hope people can relate to it. You know, it's obviously looking at two people who are at very different ends of the political and social and economic
Yeah.
spectrum, making them talk, you know, and that's fascinating
Yeah.
because you know, I know this is a problem in the States as well, but certainly
Yeah.
in the
It's a big
UK,
problem.
that whenever this conversation is portrayed on in the media or in the news or whatever, it's always an argument. It's always people shouting at each other,
Yeah.
and you know,
Yeah.
that's not good enough. You know, we need to have proper conversation. So that's kind of why I want to make the film. And
Yeah. It's
um,
like smashing into walls. That's what it feels like
yeah,
when we're having those
yeah,
conversations. Like it's just not like that, right? It's not just black and white. And this is everything's not black and white.
yeah,
We need to
yeah.
humanize this conversation because we're really crappy at it.
Exactly. No, we're not good. We're really not good at it. And I think that's the issue. You know, it's the Naomi Klein, you know, quote, right? Like, there's something about climate change that seems to have, I'm going to butcher it now. I'm going to get it wrong. Something about climate change seems to have people feeling very worried. Anyway, I'm sorry, that's not the quote, but it involves everyone. Like, everyone is threatened by
Yeah.
this conversation in some way, shape, or form. So I think, let's talk about it, you know?
Let's talk. Let's talk, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, that's great. So, okay, we ask our guests the same question. We're curious, you know, if you were to create a playbook and guiding principles about, let's say, sustainability and entertainment, what would be first on your list? And I can imagine, you know, you've got the whole kind of content creation spectrum to kind of pull from. So what would be first on your list there?
Wow, great question. Many, many things. I think from a filmmaking perspective, I think I just like what I really like is a little bit more sincerity from the kind of production and the commissioner kind of viewpoint. I think we're getting really close to this being taken seriously, but I think there's still just a little bit of lip service going on. I think there's just a little bit of, you know, that sort of it's a little bit greenwashy still. Let's put it like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
A little bit like, yeah, we really want climate stories, and the minute there's a climate story in front of them, everyone kind of clams up and finds reasons not to kind of do it. And I think
Yeah.
finding a proper production pipeline for filmmakers like myself or anyone else who's trying to tell stories in this kind of vein, where you don't just write the story and then immediately kind of get stuck. I think we have to feel like there's avenues for this, and it's just creating a bit more of a kind of a route for it. And whether that's in the mainstream or whether that's a fringe thing, I don't really care. Like I don't think this, you know, we have to be, well, we can't be picky or choosy about
Right.
it, really. But I don't know if that's answered your question, but yeah, more of a kind of pipeline, I think is what I what I'd like.
Yeah.
Almost like a central channel,
Yeah,
consents channel. I don't know.
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Well, there you go,
yeah.
Mark. You can start
And
that.
and a celebration, I think, and for it to not feel like
Yeah.
it is a niche thing. Like it shouldn't feel like this is some sort of taboo subject matter. It's like it can feel a little bit pious, and people get a little bit kind of like, oh no, it's very earnest. You know, this kind of filmmaking. It's like, no, like let's have a celebration. Let's like celebrate this. You
Yeah.
know, it's the greatest
Mm,
challenge of our lifetime. You know,
yeah.
let's dig in.
Yeah.
And I think as a writer, you have the opportunity to play with the words, to play with the meaning and the language. That's what we're really struggling on. I think there's this already, yeah, this sort of like you're saying, this binary language that we're using that I think is not serving us anymore.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so this is the opportunity of the creatives and the writers for you to, and I love that, for that love story or whatever, to really change the words that we use in the narrative. So yeah, I love it.
yeah. It goes through waves, doesn't it? I feel like around 2018, 2019, there was a lot of anger. There was a lot of like ringing the
Mm,
alarm, being like, this is happening
mm,
and no one is aware of it. And I think we did the kind of wake up call. And I think we're now, you know, post-COVID world. And I think we're coming back to this subject matter in an important way. And it should feel hopeful. I think we need to be
Mhm.
finding the
yeah,
positives as much as possible and
agreed.
totally acknowledging the bad news when it happens. There's no point in ignoring it. But I think that sort of jump scare feeling needs to leave for a while,
Yeah,
you know. And if we need
I
it to come,
agree.
we'll ask it
yeah.
to come back into the room. But I think for now, let's focus as much as possible on the innovation.
Solutions. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Very good. So, okay, tell us where we can find you, where people can find you, listeners can find you, and what you're working on now so we can pay attention.
Sure. I mean, yeah, my work is scattered around the internet, as you might expect. I do have a website, which is it's jcooperstimpson.com, I believe, and that has links to most of my films, and is a good place to start. And IMDb as well. That's all there. I mean, yeah, Spirit Place has just come out. I'd love for people to watch that. That's available for free on YouTube at the moment, for the foreseeable future, and it might change homes at some point in time. But I think it will be there for a while, which is great. We didn't want it to be behind a paywall. We wanted people to be able to kind of watch it. Yeah, it's got the Oscar winner Mark Rylance in it, who's brilliant, and a wonderful actor called Hannah Chin, and yeah, it's I'm very, very proud of that film. It's yeah, very close to my heart, and hopefully is addressing climate themes in a genteel kind of way,
Yeah.
non-shouty. So yeah, give that a watch if you fancy.
Excellent. Excellent.
Amazing.
Well, Jack Cooper Stimpson, thank you so much for being on the podcast and talking with us about all of this and for the work that you're doing, really
Yeah, and being so brave.
pushing it forward.
Thank you. Well, thank you to you guys for having me and for your podcast. I've listened to many episodes, by the way, in preparation for this, and it's fantastic. And I really, um, I like the tone that you're getting, and yeah, it's wonderful. So a pleasure to cross paths. I hope we do it again.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our designer is Aaliyah Kane. Music is by Peter Chapman. Social media is by Picnic Social. Our editor and producer is Rachel Werble.